Ahoy! Ladies and gentlemen, it is a very good news day. The devs actually listened to us. The feedback from PTR didn't go unheard, and we are getting changes to leaderboards. So all of the promises that Anwin had made to us over time were actually true. I am not really sure why they didn't just include that information in the post they made about leaderboards. That would have made things a ton clearer, but I'm super happy to be wrong here and to see that we're actually getting last minute changes. But let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. So, what happened? Today a new video came out, one of the Forged in Aeternum ones, and this one specifically about leaderboards. This may have been because of the negative backlash, or it may have just been because they felt like talking about leaderboards in the context of it being released soon. Whichever it is, the first thing they went into detail about actually wasn't leaderboards, it was what they did before that, which were the shell company changes. About those, they said that they consider them a success because there are less shell companies going around in general and there is a fairer distribution of territories. Also, they have heard the feedback regarding company size issues because you have to have really active players in order to consistently get enough players off your own company for a war, and you basically almost immediately have to kick any inactive players, which is obviously very frustrating. So they are working on a guild size limit raise. However, they want to check for any potential technical issues first before they do that, because basically more information would have to be sent back and forth and they want to make sure that that runs smoothly. But now on to the topic of leaderboards. The first thing they did was explain the technical side of things a little bit, specifically the data storage, which was handled differently in New World before and made it a little bit difficult for leaderboards to exist without basically sending unnecessary amounts of data to the player. This is actually interesting because it means now with leaderboards, the information is only loading when the player is looking at leaderboards and not constantly being sent. I didn't know that this was an issue for New World beforehand, but it does explain a lot of things. Few people that are much more involved in technical things than I am talked about this before and were wondering why New World is basically sending a bunch of somewhat unnecessary information very frequently. Obviously not the whole game or anything, but more than necessary. And in the show here they said that they can basically use this technology that they now have for other things as well. That could open up some great opportunities to store more data without constantly sending it to the player. Also, the code for leaderboards is at least partially on the live clients right now already and is generating data to test for issues. They try to find out if they're putting the right priority and emphasis on certain leaderboards versus others, and which leaderboards are most easy to exploit. I think we all know the answer to that one. One of the major complaints they had with leaderboards were that the leaderboard achievements that actually are in the achievement tab itself didn't feel that achievable, because getting on the leaderboards is meant to almost feel unachievable in a way. Therefore, they kept the technology for achievements in order to unlock things like titles from the leaderboard, but the achievements themselves were removed. The titles are still there and you can get them, and of course you can also get the skin rewards. One of the questions they were frequently asked was why leaderboards are coming now. There is no ranked PvP in OPR or Arena, so what's the point? And I agreed with that to the degree that I said they simply should not introduce PvP leaderboards and just give us the PvE leaderboards. They said, we have all this other awesome content in the game that we want to celebrate. Mutations, faction war, invasions, corruption breaches, and trials. So why not now? And I gotta wonder a little bit if they really consider corruption breaches in their current state amazing content that's worth celebrating, and trials for that matter, but hey, fair enough. At least for mutations and the speedrunning community, I completely understand it. I think it's a great feature for them, and it motivates me to run some more expeditions as well, just to see how I compare. But they also understood that certain changes needed to be made, and this is what makes me very happy. I quote, "We have definitely heard the feedback and had a lot of fun watching streamers cheese OPR score." Now, they acknowledge that that is definitely not good behavior and detrimental to the game mode because you are not forced to play the objective at all. As such, they have moved around certain rewards. They have completely removed the war rewards. So there's no risk of people stat padding for leaderboards in wars anymore. You don't get anything for it. But based on them praising the faction war beforehand, I would assume that part is still in the game, but there's no rewards for the faction war, it's just a leaderboard to show off how much your faction has held certain things. And the other thing, the real big deal, is OPR is no longer tracked by score. This and war score were by far my biggest complaints, simply because the score system in New World is inherently broken. It rewards stat padding, AoE spam, or sitting in the backline with a musket, and doesn't reward any type of play that would be significantly contributing to objective capture or tanking or any kind of defensive playstyle at all. Our voices have been heard, and instead OPR is now tracked by wins instead of score. Now I will say right here, right now, wins aren't perfect. You can cheese wins very easily by running pre-man groups, and if this is not a win percentage thing and literally just wins as a flat value, then it is based on whoever plays the mode the most. So on most servers I expect OPR to be crowded with very sweaty 5-man groups that will play all day in order to get this title. But fair enough, within the metrics of what the game currently allows, this is probably as good as it gets. Well, they could use win percentage, that would lead to its own issues, because then you have people not queuing until they have their 5 stack ready to go, just so they can always guarantee the highest chance of winning. That would also not be ideal, and everything else kind of is just not balanced enough and measurable well enough in order to be fully effective at this point. If you are winning more consistently, it does definitely indicate that you're trying to win, that you're playing to win, you're playing the objective, and that's about as much as we can ask for until there is a ranked system in the future. Yes, it is a crutch, but it's a crutch that also encourages playing the game mode as it is intended to be played, instead of being a stat padder. It may actually lead to more players taking the game more seriously and less Dex Andes sitting 200 miles away from the point, because they actually want to win now, so they are playing something that facilitates winning more than something that just gets the highest score in OPR. I'm sure this will also to some degree increase toxicity, because people are more hell-bent on winning. But again, these are the smaller trade-offs that I'm taking for a mode that will at least be played as intended. They've also made it clear that they're looking at this as a version 1, a foundation that can easily be extended by adding new leaderboards, new stats, change the time ranges, and so on. Now, this is something they say about a lot of their features. They often say this is our V1 and we'll do another version later, and that doesn't really happen all that quick, or hasn't happened much. But in this case, it's a bit more clear and a more straightforward version what a V2 could be. Obviously, if they get around to introducing some form of ranked mode for PvP, then it would be very easy to introduce some form of reward for that. That's probably also why they didn't mention any rewards for Arena, which is a bit unfortunate, but I'm guessing that they are too worried that win trading in Arena would be much easier because the population for Arena is so small, so they're probably waiting until there's some form of ranking or MMR for Arena, however far that may be away. AG has also added that they can very easily build up on leaderboards by adding a new feature and then adding that feature to the leaderboards. So now that the foundation is there, I think it's very easy to expand on all of this. Overall, these news were very surprising to me and very last minute, but also very positive, so I'm very happy with them. Should there be any other changes in the patch, I will of course let you know. Consider subscribing and clicking the bell if you want to get notified of that, and also of the video about freedom and CC duration increases that is coming soon. That was meant to be released today, but now these news came out, so I'm delaying that one a little bit. Thanks to my patrons for supporting this video, and thank you for watching. Sloth, out.